Hello and welcome to DIY Filmmaking 200. Today we are working with the Foley Sampler. To start off, we're going to go on the internet and we're going to download some free samples. There's lots of free WAV files of different samples of instruments. I just found one at freewavesamples.com. This has a handful of samples that are pretty good. You can see we've got bass, cymbal, drum, different kinds of guitar, loop, orchestra. I'm going to go down here to synthesizer, keyboards. I like those 1980s synthesizer sounds, so I'm going to download a few of these. Here is the Casio. I'm going to download this file, and then I'm going to get maybe a woodwind. Let me listen to this recorder. Feel free to download as many of these as you want. I'm going to go over here to my downloads folder where these have shown up, and I'm making a special folder in my DIY filmmaking under audio. This of course I've got just for me so I can distinguish it, and I made a folder called samples, and I'm going to take these and drag them in here so that I've got my samples right where I can find them with the Foley Sampler. Next we're going to go over and launch Davinci Resolve, and we're going to go ahead and apply these Foley samples to some of our B-roll tracks that we're going to be making. This way we can have some ambient music behind the sounds that we're working on. Okay, Davinci Resolve is opened up, and I'm going to put this still in our sound walk project because this is definitely a sound walk that we're working on. And it's opened up in the media folder, which is right where I want it. I'm going to go over and grab some of this B-roll footage that we have been creating, and I'm going to give this to you as well. But shooting B-roll is going to be a really important type of footage to be shooting. You don't always need the primary driving footage behind your filmmaking, such as an actor talking or a car driving or something very specific. B-roll is the in-between. Collecting B-roll is a lot about, I call it contemplation. You can see here we had the sunset streaming through the back window of the bathroom, and I just decided to capture it. What I'm doing is I'm pretending that I'm attached to a balloon that has zero buoyancy, and it's just kind of drifting around the room. You can see I'm moving my camera very slowly, maybe drifting in to explore or drifting out a little bit. I'm imagining that I'm maybe a space alien from another planet who's just mesmerized by this simple sight that I'm seeing, or maybe that I'm a child, an infant, and seeing this and just being mesmerized by it. These are things that are going to give your audience something to rest on and just relax and give the footage some space. Here's another shot where I was just looking up at the trees in the park. This is a very classic shot. You see it used a lot. Looking up at the trees, panning up and down them, and then giving a little bit of a turn. Sort of imagine that you're laying down in the grass, just looking at something going by. Here I have the wind blowing in the grass. It's also nice if you can get just a little bit of that natural sound to come through without too many other noises, such as cars going by or car alarms or an air compressor going by. If you're getting your B-roll, you really want it to be as clean as possible, not having too many other distracting things in the shots. Getting in close is always good. Here are some oak trees. You notice how those power lines are a little distracting. Try to keep away from distracting images that kind of pull your mind away, but this is very nice. this turn and twist and just those trees up in the air. I think these trees are my favorite, and I've got a nice good minute and a half of footage, so that's plenty to work with. I'm going to drag this down, and I'm going to right click on it and create a new timeline using selected clip. And we're going to call this Foley Trees. I'm going to click on it, and it's going to bring us into the edit page. But for the Foley Sampler, we're going to have to work in the Fairlight page, so I'm going to go down here to the right and click on the musical note, and that's going to bring us into the Foley Sampler page. Now I've turned my meters on for this because it's really nice to be able to see the track as it goes by, because we're going to be playing our instrument over top of that track, and you're going to want to watch what's happening as it goes. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so I can see the whole track. And then we're going to add a second track because I want this. If I record the Foley Sampler, it will delete this audio track and record over top of it, but I actually want to hear that little bit of wind. So I'm going to go just below this track. I'm going to go to Add Track, and all we need is a mono track. Here we have Audio 2. Now on the right here on our mixer, we've got Audio 1 and Audio 2. I'm going to select Audio 2 and go to my effects where the little plus is. You can see all of my different effects. And I'm going to scroll down to Instruments, and here is the Foley Sampler. Now you can see we have a whole keyboard, but it can't play anything because we haven't added our sample. To add our sample, we go up to the upper right hand corner to these three dots, select this, go to Add Sample. And I'm going to go to my video folder, to my DIY filmmaking, audio, and samples, and we're going to start with this Casio keyboard. So I open this up, you can see it's added the sample along this little red bar here on the bottom, and you can hear this Casio keyboard come in. The first thing I notice is it's really high. So it's just taken that one note and it's stretched it out across the keyboard. It's just done a pitch change, just like what we were doing with our effects, and it's pitch adjusted it for each of the keys on the keyboard. This is really nice because all you need to do is record one sample and it'll stretch it across the keyboard. If you're doing a voice, or if you're taking something from ambient, such as a beep that you find or some kind of strange sound that you want to stretch across the keyboard, the Foley Sampler does this work automatically. Under tuning, I have this octave, and I can bring it down an octave. I'm just making it lower. I'm going to bring it down 2 octaves. Maybe even 3 octaves, because I want a nice low note. There we go. Ooh, that's good. Low notes are really good for ambient sounds. The other thing I notice is that the levels are really high. As I'm playing this instrument, it is going almost to -3 decibels, and that's very loud. So there's a master level that I can control here, but there's also up top here, you see we have sample and we have level. I've got some more controls, and there's an individual level just for this sample. I'm going to bring this down. Well, that's a little too quiet. There we go. -10 is what I want. Somewhere around -10 will give us a nice quality. The other thing is, do you notice how if I hold it, I get a nice sustained sound? But as soon as I release from the keyboard, it stops it immediately. And if I'm hunting around, I get this real choppy sound. Under our sliders here, I've got a release knob. As I turn this release knob up, now when I press these, it's going to play the entire note all the way out and let me get this nice ability to play these over top of each other. So release is one of the things I've been setting on all of these. If you want, you can add another sample on top of this and play them in different parts of the keyboard. So I have that second sample. I'm going to go to Add Sample. I'm going to try this recorder. As you can see, it's now split the keyboard up. So here it's in the lower keys, it's playing just the Casio. And in the upper keys, it's playing the recorder. I actually kind of like the way this sounds. I'm going to see if that release works. It's definitely too loud, so I'm going to lower my levels down. Bring it up a hair. There we go. It's around 15, maybe a teeny bit higher. There we go, just under -10. And now I have two different samples that I can play if I want. I'm not really liking this recorder because it ends really kind of abruptly, and I like this drifting sound that I have here. Now, to know which one you're working on, you can select the bar itself, and that will select the track. It doesn't do it if you go up above. You have to select the actual bar itself. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the recorder because I don't think I need that sample. Now you can see it's stretched the Casio keyboard across the whole key. So I have my high notes and my low notes. There's a few things we have to set up to get the Foley Sampler to work. I'm going to go to my track and zoom out so I can see the whole thing. First thing I need to do is I need to set up my input and output. This is very important. You can set your input and output to anywhere in the track. We're going to select the whole track. I've got my playhead here. I'm going to bring the playhead to the beginning and press my set region input. That's set to 0, 0, 0, 0. And I'm going to drag it to the end of the track. Or if you want to find the end of the track, you can just hit over here. You've got your beginning and ending keys. That'll take it to the, oh, that's past the end of the track. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. I'm going to go just to the end of the track, and I'm going to set my output. So make sure that you remember to set your output and input. Then record mode, we have two different modes that we can use. Currently we're in the safe mode, which just means it's not recording at all. We have record, which will record just straight onto the track. And then there's dub, which will actually play it back over top of the track and let you play multiple rounds. For now, let's just go ahead and hit record. And then on our track itself, we have to hit this little R. Remember, we have our solo and mute that we used before. Well, this R actually turns the track into a recording track. Make sure to bring our playhead to the beginning so that it records from the beginning. So again, I'm going to zoom out so I can see the whole thing. And then before we play, we have to hit this little record button up here. You can see we have play, stop, record. That's the little triangle, the square, and the circle. So we're going to hit the record button. It's going to start recording and playing the track, and then we can start playing. It does not give you a countdown, which is unfortunate. So it's really hard to hit those notes right at the beginning of the track. If you really want to hit a note at the beginning of the track, you might want to actually pull your track out a little bit so that you can give yourself a little space. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to hit record, and I'm going to play a few notes here. All right, and then when I'm done, I have to hit the stop button because otherwise it'll keep recording that track. Now we can go back and listen to what we've done. And I really like the way that sounds. The second set of notes I'm not that into, so I'm going to go ahead and trim them out. There's a little trim button here that lets me cut that, and I'm going to go ahead and use my backspace button to eliminate those. And I'm going to relaunch my Foley Sampler. You can see I've got this little record button. I want the one in the middle. And I'm going to see if I can just add a little note there at the end to kind of resolve the way this sounds. I'm going to hit record. I think that sounds a little better. There. Now you can add these tracks, cut them over, add other pieces. If you want to dub over top of it, you can do that as well. And that is the basics of the Foley Sampler. There's a lot of quirks to it, so I really recommend playing around with it a lot, and you'll learn the ins and outs of this tool and how to best get it to work. All right, this has been the Foley Sampler for DIY Filmmaking 200. Thanks, you guys.